Okay, looking at Friday 10.3 probability, we've moved into another new section. We're going to start with the definition kind of formula for probability. Probability, we say, is the number of successes over the possible outcomes. And I think that'll make more sense as we see some examples. So here it says a spinner is fair. This is just another note before we start an example. A spinner is fair if it has equal probabilities for each outcome. So we would say this is a fair spinner because each outcome, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 are the same size. We would say a spinner that looks like this, let's say we have a spinner 1, 2, and 3. We would say this is not fair because it's more likely, right, that you'll land on 3. So we would say this isn't fair. So we'll only be working with fair spinners when we do work with spinners in this section. So example 1, a spinner with 5 numbers is fair, okay? Find the probability of spinning a 2. So what is the probability that you would land on a 2? Well, using our definition here, successes over possible outcomes, let's set up a fraction. Well, how many possible outcomes are there here? Well, you could get 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, right? So there's 5 total possible outcomes. And how many are successes, or how many meet this criteria of spinning a 2? Well, only one of them is 2, excuse me. So we don't put 2 here. How many 2s are there? There's 1, 2. There's only 1 out of 5 chance that you'll land on a 2. Now, I want us to change this in our homework later. We're going to have to change these 2%. How do we change? Now, this is correct. There's nothing wrong with this. But in some of our homework, they're going to ask for a percent. So let's review, how do you change a fraction to a percent? There are different ways to do it. One way would be what? Think about what you've learned. Well, we could change the denominator to 100. Remember, percent means per 100, right? Century per 100. So if we change the denominator to 100, whatever that numerator is, then that will be our percent. So let's do it. So we're trying to change it to 100. 5 times what gives us 100? Well, 5 times 20. And if we do it to the denominator, we also have to do it to the numerator. So 5 times 20 is 100. Yep, 1 times 20 is 20. 20 over 100 as a percent would be 20%, right? It means 20 per 100. So 1/5 or 20% is the probability of landing on a 2. And again, these two mean the same thing, just a different form. All right, let's move to our next example. Again, we have a spinner. And I brought this over for us again, the probability formula, successes over possible outcomes. Now, again, we have a spinner. A spinner with 5 numbers is fair. Find the probability of spinning an odd number, okay, or landing on an odd number. So again, let's set up our fraction. Possible outcomes. How many possible outcomes are there here? Well, there's 5. And then successes, or the ones that fit the criteria here of spinning an odd number, how many of these are odd? Well, 1, 3, 5, so there are 3 odds. And if we can reduce it, we will. Here we can't. So 3/5, that is the chance or the probability that will land on an odd number. All right, moving down to example 3. Example 3 says find the probability of spinning an even. Again, what are the possible outcomes? Well, there are 5 possible outcomes, so that's our denominator. How many are even? Well, there are 2 and 4, so that wouldn't be the number that are given necessarily, but there are 2 numbers, right, that are even, so 2/5. And that's the probability of spinning an even. Now, down here they want us to change both answers to percent form. So let's get a little more practice with that. And I'm going to do it the same way I did last time because I think that's probably the best way to do it here. So change the denominator to 100. And we have to think 5 times what is 100? And we did this on the other side, is 5 times 20, right? So 3 times 20 is 60. And 60 over 100 as a percent is 60%. So it's either a 60% chance you'll land on an odd number or 3/5. 3 out of 5 chance you'll land there. All right, do the same thing down here. We have the same denominator 5, so we're going to change it to 100. we're going to multiply by 20, right? 5 times 20 is 100, and 2 times 20 is 40. 40 over 100 means the same thing as 40%. So there's a 40% chance that you will land on an even number, and a 60% chance that we'll land on an odd number. So there's a greater chance that we'll land on an odd number. All right, let's move to our next problem. Okay, so I realized that I wrote this a little bit wrong, and I left something out here. So there should be 7 blue marbles as well. Okay, so 6 red, 5 green, 2 yellow, 7 blue, and I scratched out percent. We might find some of them with percent. We'll just kind of decide as we go. And in your homework, obviously, you cannot decide as you go. I'll tell you if I want fractions or percent. So, example 4, a blue marble. What is the probability of pulling out a blue marble? Well, we'll set up our fraction. How many total possible outcomes? So there's 6 red, and 5 green, and 2 yellow, and 7 blue. So all we need to do is total these up. So 6 and 5 give us 11. 11 and 2 give us 13. 13 and 7 give us 20. All right, and how many blue marbles are there? Well, there are 7, so that's the successes. There would be 7 blue marbles. So we have 7 over 20. We can convert that to a percent. We're not going to in this one. Moving to example 5, a green marble. All right, so again, how many total marbles? What are the possible outcomes here? There are 20 possible marbles that you could draw out. Okay. Now, how many of them are green? Well, 5 of them are green. And let's, first of all, you shouldn't leave your answer like that. What should you do to it? Should reduce it, right? What goes into both 5 and 20? 5 goes into both of them. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 20 divided by 5 is 4. So this is reduced all the way 1/4. There's a 1 in 4 chance that you will grab out a green marble. And again, for this one, let's change it to a percent just for a little practice. So some of you might have this memorized what this says as a percent. You can just write it down. Otherwise, change that denominator to 100. 4 times what is 100? 4 times 25, right? Think of 4 quarters. And 1 times 25 is 25. 25 over 100 as a percent is 25%. So there's a 25% chance you'll pull out a green marble. All right, example 6 says a blue or yellow marble. So what's the probability of choosing a blue or a yellow marble? So again, how many total marbles or possible outcomes? Well, there are 20 total marbles in the bag, so 20 possible outcomes. Now, how many fit this, blue or yellow? Well, there are 7 blue and 2 yellow, so that would be a total of 9. And we could change this to a percent. I think we're just going to do the fraction form for right now. And last one, example 7. What is the probability of choosing a primary color? All right, this might make us review just a little bit. First of all, how many possible outcomes? 20, right? They all have the same number of marbles to pull out here, or to choose from. Now, we need to remember our primary colors. What are they? You guys remember? They are red, blue, and yellow. Okay, those are the primary colors. So there are 6 red, 2 yellow, and 7 blue. So let's total those to find how many primary colored marbles there are. 6 red, 2 yellow give me 8, and 8 and 7 give me 15. Do not leave this like this. Make sure you reduce it. What goes into both 15 and 20? 5, right? 15 divided by 5, divided by 5 is 3, and 20 divided by 5 is 4. And we have 3/4. Some of you might have that percent memorized. If you do, you can write it down. It would be 75%. We can think of 3/4 of $1, right, is 75 cents. All right, so that is our lesson. Let's take a look at our homework. I'll explain the problems and give a few pieces of information. You've made it to the end of the week. So Brad has a drawer full of socks, 6 green, 6 red, 8 yellow, 4 white. Find the probability of drawing each of the following. Find each as a fraction and percent. Now I'm going to adjust this just a bit. Find number 1 as a fraction and percent. Find number 2 as a fraction and percent. And in number 3, I want it just as a fraction. So in 1 and 2, you should have 2 answers, fraction and percent, but in number 3, just give it to me as a fraction. So you're going to find the probability of drawing a green sock, a yellow or white sock, and any color except white. Okay? So go ahead and get started. If you have questions, contact me through email, and I will see you guys next week.